Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lauren. Well, thank you for being with us today. Can you give us a self-introduction?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Lauren Simoneaux, and I am a petroleum engineer. I currently work for JP Morgan as a VP on their energy credit risk team. I am originally from the New Orleans area, but I moved to Dallas after I graduated from LSU. So I've been here about 15 years. And I am here to talk to you about the importance of women helping other women.
Well, we are excited you're with us today, and we have your slides pulled up, so take it away.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. I wish that we could all be in the same room together and have all these amazing women in the same room enjoying. But I'm glad that we were able to do it this way. And I'm so excited to talk about a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. And that is why I think it's important and ways for women to help other women. Go to the next slide. So just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about, quick introduction of myself, and why I'm passionate about this topic, and then why I think it's an important topic. And I kind of separated into business and personal lives, and obviously they do skew a little bit together, but I wanted to separate it out just a little bit. And then, since it is important moving forward, how we can help other women in business and then in our everyday lives. And then we'll have time for questions, or if anyone wants to share experiences, we will do that at the end. Next slide. So quick introduction of myself. So I'm from New Orleans, and so I went to an all-girls school, which was the last time that I was in a room dominated by females. I spent the next 7 years in college in school with majority male students, being an engineering school. And when I say majority male students, I graduated with 45 people and only 3 of us were women. And I spent a lot of classes where I was the only female in the room. And so the teachers knew who I was when they were giving tests back, that's for sure. And then once I graduated, I've spent the past 15 plus years working in mainly male dominated fields. So I started out in the oil and gas industry as a petroleum engineer. And so there are very few other female engineers. Now that's changing. But not only that many female engineers, but just in general on staff in the industry, especially because I spent a lot of my time out in the field. And so pretty much being the only female on site with, let's just say, 100 people at times. So I definitely know what it's like to be with mainly men at all times. But a couple of years ago, I switched over to the financial side. So I'm an energy credit risk engineer. And I don't know if you are aware, but the finance and banking world is still fairly male dominated at this point. But I'm glad to see that we have a lot of younger analysts, et cetera, that are female and coming up. So I'm excited about that. Go to the next slide. First of all, I just want to say, so what this is not male bashing. This is not to say that men can't help us and don't want to help us. I think I just really want to make the point that we have a really unique opportunity as females to really bring each other up and help each other out and not just depend on other males in the room. I think that it hits different when it's women. I am lucky to have had many males in my career that have helped me get to where I am. And so hopefully that you have also had the same experience. I have found that more recently than not, when I've talked to people, there have been women that have actually had other women help them out. And I think that's great, but I think that there was just so long of a time frame where women weren't in the position to be able to do that. But with more women in management and in C-suite and et cetera, I think that we've had the ability to have more female mentors help us out. But for the most of us, we had to have males help us get to where we are. So why is this important, especially in business? And this is one of my favorite quotes from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and that is that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And unfortunately, we are the exception still, unfortunately. Now I am an engineer and I like numbers. I can't help it. So we're going to talk a little bit on numbers on that. So on the next slide. So Fortune 500 companies, when we take a look at them in 2021, the number of CEOs that were female was only 41%. 41, which is only 8%. Now, these numbers are from when I did them last year, so the 2022 numbers are out. And yes, we have moved in the positive state, but guess what? We're only at 44 women for 2022 for CEOs. C-suite jobs in 2021, women held only about 20% of them. Majority of that was CFO or presidents, not CEOs. That number has come up to anywhere between 23 and 25%, depending which, where you get your information from. So again, positive, but not quite the dramatic shift that we're looking for. And then going down to board seat positions in 2021, women held about 27%, and that number has come up as well in 2022. But we're talking about women helping women, so I think that the interesting statistic here is that companies that had female CEOs, 39% of those had a woman on the board, compared to companies with male CEOs that only 26% of them had a woman on the board. So as I said, though, from 2021 to 2022, these numbers have increased. However, when you look at them, even just on a percentage basis of how much they've increased, if it continues in this manner, it'll take over 30 years for us to get to 50% in all of these CEO, C-suite, or board equality. And that's a long time. So we've got some work to do still. Next slide. So in business, so when I do this typically with an interactive crowd, I ask people to raise their hands if they have experienced these things. But I think first and foremost that there's still this incorrect thought that you have to be competitive with other women due to there being limited positions specifically for women. I think instead of, there have been times where people have told me, there's a woman at the top, but she won't help me out. One, because she's afraid I'm going to take her spot, or, she had to work hard to get there and isn't willing to help me. And I just cannot comprehend that. I think that instead we should be lifting each other up together and creating more positions instead of just going with that outdated thought that there's only a few spots. And so we have to compete against each other for them. Now, some of these situations, so normally I would say, hey, raise your hand if you've experienced this, but typically a lot of people have. So if you have felt left out of meetings, events, or conversations that are happening at work because you're a female, I have friends that experience this. This isn't just happening at the, lower, younger level. I have friends that are in C-suite that still get left out of meetings where decisions are being made for younger male colleagues. Being left out of events that are maybe outside of the office. So for example, like golfing events, under the assumption that just because we're female, either we don't golf or don't have any interest in golf. I've been in a room where not only was I not invited to the event, but they didn't want to talk about it because they thought I didn't have any interest. And it's like, I've been playing golf for 30 plus years and my handicap's probably better than yours. My best friend's is definitely better than yours. So it's really funny when that pops up. And has anyone, felt like a male talks over you at a meeting? So, you're putting ideas out there, putting yourself out there, and a man jumps on top of you and just keeps talking. There's so much research out there that shows that women will be the first to back down from that situation. Two people talking over each other, a woman's just going to back down and say, you know what, it's okay. And I think that it's important that whenever you see this happening to someone, I think she had something to say, she wasn't done. I see this occur way too often. Another one is being told that your communication style was emotional or too much. I have a friend that is the president of her company, and she has been straight up told from her coworkers, if you were a male, you would, one, be the boss and probably be CEO by now, but because you're female, and excuse my language, you are considered a bitch. You are considered too much. And it's baffling that men just get to be men but because we say things or put our perspective out there, we are emotional. I see this happen way too often. Also, just the assumption that we hold the typical female roles. I switched over. I mean, I've been dealing with this my entire career. I understand I look really young, but especially moving over from the role where I pretty much knew my network to a new role. I get introduced to new people all the time, and they think that I am the office manager, assistant, secretary. And my favorite is during the summer months when they think I'm the intern, which is great. So it's really interesting because I work in a group of engineers where we all do the same job. And it's like of all of my male colleagues, I actually have more degrees than they do. So yes, I am the engineer on your team. I know it's a bit shocking, but this seriously happens to me almost on a daily basis. And I have found that the way to kind of stop this is I introduce myself. I introduce myself, my name, my title, and what do I do to almost avoid this or to get the point across that, yes, I am serious and I'm an engineer. This one's less important, but it irks me at times, which is, highlighting women in roles because it seems like it's out of the norm. So we don't have, a top men engineers list that comes out, but there's a, highlighting female engineers list that comes out because they feel like they kind of have to, because it doesn't happen very often. And one of the other things is if you are a female working, and I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but when you're in what would be considered your childbearing years, and if you haven't had kids yet, you feel like you almost have to put it out there of when you maybe intend to, or if you don't intend to, because the fear is that, they won't promote you. They won't, there's the fear that like you're going to go on maternity leave. Basically, I've had friends in this position constantly that feel like they had to put that out into the world. So what can we do? So moving to the next slide, and we'll talk about why this is important in our personal lives. I think that celebrating another woman's triumphs or success will never take away from your shine or glory. If anything, it'll add to it and create more light. Again, I think that there's this outdated thought process that women need to be competitive against each other, cut each other down, judge each other. And I think that instead you really should be finding, a group of women that help bring you up, support you, and you don't get anything out of cutting other women down. I think that there are just experiences that only other women will understand. And it's not the fault of men. We don't understand what they experience a lot of times. And so they can't understand what our experiences is. They don't understand what it's like to be on a really bad day of your cycle. They don't understand what it's like to be going through menopause and, start sweating randomly. It's just things that they won't comprehend. They won't comprehend, that we're expected to look a certain way. Like a lot of men could just get out of the shower and they're ready for the day. And we're expected to have our hair done, makeup done, our nails done. Like yesterday, I probably, in theory, should have probably gone and got my nails done for a client meeting today, but it was beautiful outside. So you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to be outside. And so I didn't go. And I think that there are still places that we aren't considered to belong, outside of work. For example, like golf, I'm on just sign up for a tee time and I show up and it's two other guys. They're like, you can tell in their face, they're like, wow, I really wish that a woman was here. Okay. And I would say another one is like, so I started playing pickleball. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the US. If you haven't tried it yet, I think you should. But so it's typically 4 people playing. And so if 2 women jump on the court and 2 men, it's the automatic assumption, we have to play mixed because there's absolutely no way that 2 women could beat 2 men. And it's my absolute favorite to go ahead and prove them wrong. And I think also like So I play in a league, and there's a men's league and a women's league. And so guess what time the women play? They play at, 5 p.m. and the men play at 7 p.m. because it's the assumption that the women don't work and can make it at 5 p.m. Whereas, men need more time to get there. So it's sad. And you see it way too often where it's still a big difference between how female and males are treated. Okay, so how can we help each other out? On the next slide, we'll first kind of start with business. One of the things that we can do is just network with other women. And I get it. It is time consuming. We have a lot of other things going on. Sometimes it's the last thing that you want to do, but it truly can help each other out. So for example, we just recently, we've just changed offices. And so we have a lot of new people on the floor. And so they decided to do a women's breakfast where it was just, hey, who are you? What are your hobbies? What's your family like? Just getting to know each other. That way, we all know each other on the floor and can help each other out for anything that comes up, whether it's business or personal. I think that really just trying to help if you can't even help someone, but you can help expand their network maybe and introduce them to other people. I think that's huge. I think another thing that we can do is really just talk about your experiences with your coworkers. So you're not feeling alone, because there are times you can feel alone as a female, especially in male dominated. So to have another female or coworkers, hey, this just happened to me. Have you ever experienced this? It really can, one, put you at ease, and also you can get an ally that can help you in those situations. I think a big one is helping give other women a voice. I think that at times there are younger, less experienced, or maybe just shy or more timid females that, maybe in a meeting, you can tell that they have something like a really good idea, but they're just afraid to talk up. Maybe not confronting them in the meeting, but just after, hey, you looked like you had a good idea. Is it something, we want to talk about? I think when I first started coming out, I was most of us are young, arrogant engineers, and I had a little too much of a voice probably at times. But I think now when I use my voice, it's more for helping others. And, if someone's more timid, hey, it looked like you had an idea. So just trying to help others that may not be quite as outgoing. Another big one is encouraging women to apply for promotions or go after challenges. I think that, all people, but especially women, and definitely me, deal with imposter syndrome. It's something that I have to deal with on the daily. When I was trying to decide, first of all, whether to even give the speech the first time around, I was like, well, why would anybody want to hear from me? I'm not, that's not for me. But I had a lot of really good friends that were like, you can do this. I think you have great experience. I think people just do it. And so there is so much research out there that men will apply for anything. They'll apply for any job, say that they can do any project, and they just have this blind confidence. Whereas women, like, they look at, so a job listing, it's got 10 things. If they only have 9 of the 10 things, they're like, maybe not, I'm not going to apply. Whereas men just have this blind confidence, will apply for anything. So I think that encouraging other women for either like job promotions or even just, challenges and projects outside of their norm. Hey, I think that you would be great for this. Hey, I think you're ready for this. I think goes a long way in helping other people's confidence for sure. All right. Now on the next slide though, how can we do this in everyday life? It's kind of the same, talk about our experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that we have seen over the past few years that women are a tribe and we're not alone. And when we start talking and putting things out there, we really can help and make a difference. I think that unfortunately, especially in the social media age, that, the bad and the ugly isn't talked about enough. It's only the glam, the good. And a lot of times as females, when we want to talk about good things happening, we feel like we're gloating. If, something good's happening in our life and we want to share it, me personally, especially, I can feel like I'm almost gloating or whatnot, whereas men will put I did this today. And so for me, that's been hard. I had a friend reach out and she said, I don't hear much about your life. I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'd be just gloating instead, because I have a lot of good things happening right now. And she's like, I want to hear about it. So just talking. Another thing, this might sound strange, but just complimenting other women. You would be amazed. So you just, you walk in an elevator, you see a woman's shoes you love. Hey, I love your shoes. It took me 5 seconds, cost me absolutely nothing. You see the shoulders perk up, you just see a smile. Thank you so much. It cost us nothing, but just bringing someone's self-esteem up for 5 seconds, I think it's pretty darn important. Even if it's just like, hey, I love your energy today. You seem like you're really on it today. I think that it's important, just anything positive that you're saying, to just put it out there. Another thing that we can do is just supporting either women-owned businesses or, for example, for me, we were putting up a fence a couple of months ago. And so we looked at a couple different companies. They came out, prices were pretty much the same, but there was one that they sent out a female contractor, which you just don't see very often. And so in talking to her, and everything was pretty comparable, we went with that company because I think it's important that they were willing to put women in that role. Then yeah, I'm going to give them a chance. And last but not least, we need to stop judging other women. We are the absolute worst at this. Now, I'm not saying that we're perfect. I am not saying that, hey, that thought might not come through your brain, but hey, let's maybe not express that. I think that the more we keep positive towards one another, the better off we are. And I say that this really does happen to me all the time. So I wake up pretty early. I go work out, typically swimming. So I come out chlorine. The grocery store is in between the gym in my house. And so a lot of times I'll stop, especially if I need, food, coffee, whatever it is. This happens more often than not. I'm checking out. I turn around. There's a woman behind me. She's looking me up and down like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, it's 7 a.m. I just worked out. I'm just trying to get some food. What do you want from me? So I think this is a big one that happens often. And I think it's something that's so easy to change. I think also, and I forgot to mention earlier, push and challenge each other in everyday life as well. Like we said in business, also trying to get women out there. I talk about pickleball a lot, but we have open play, which can be a bit overwhelming for some people because it's just a big group of people that obviously look like they're playing together. Men jump into this all the time. Like, oh yeah, open play, great, I'm in. As women, I was the same way. It was, oh, I don't know if they're gonna want me to play with them. I have had to convince more women, hey, just show up, I promise. Whereas men are like, oh, cool, something else, let's do it. So I think just, pushing and challenge each other in just everyday life as well is really, really important. All right, so I know that was pretty quick. It's usually a little bit longer if I have a little bit of interaction. But if anybody has either experiences that they want to share or questions, please, let's start that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that presentation. And yes, if anybody would like to ask a live question, you can raise your hand.
Sorry, I forgot there were questions.
I know, but if anybody would like to ask a live question, I know there's a lot of people in the chat, so it might take me a while to kind of get through all that. If anybody raised their hand to see everybody, but please put your questions into the chat, and we would love to hear from you. So yeah, we have had a couple of questions that have come in from the chat. These are the first two I just kind of grabbed. This one came from Sara, and Sara says, if women see other women as rivals or competitors and males don't see us as equals, where do we start to move that needle?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, so the question is, if women see other women as rivals and competitors, but males don't see us and males don't see us as equals, where do we start to move that needle?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think that we see that a lot where males maybe don't see us as equals. And it's tough because, like I said before, there seems to be this notion that there's limited spots at the top. And so you kind of see each other as a rival. And where I think it comes into play that you can change this or at least start to move the needle on this is making more spots for women. So if you are helping bring other women up, expanding their networks, pushing them out to where they are going to, either get promoted or just get more noticed, and more women start to get there, then it's not seen as unnormal anymore. It's more normal that women should be there. And men will have to start seeing us as supposed to be there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, our next question came from Lauren, and Lauren says, how do you deal with men in the workplace that mansplain, aka man explaining?
Yes, so that is a good one. And that one happens a lot. And it's tough because you don't want to be the person that just stops them in their tracks, because then you are looked upon as the rude female, obviously. I think there's a way of nicely deflecting, either not so much cutting them off, but just in terms of, as they're maybe explaining something to you, jump in and be like, basically start to point out that you know what they're talking about. Like, you already know, they don't have to explain it, instead of just being like, I know it. I have found that if there's ways so if someone's explaining to me basically how to use email, you can say, oh yeah, no, I've also found that this tip works well, or this would be a good shortcut too. So, getting your point to them of, yes, I know. And also, if you really want to dig at them a little bit, here's another idea that you probably haven't tried yet as well. And that's kind of the best way that I have found, without just having to cut someone off and be like, stop explaining this to me, I already know, because then they just look at you like you're rude, unfortunately.
Right. Well, this question came from, I like this one. This one came from Alana. Alana said, what is an example of a mistake you made in this process, and what did you learn from it? And she also says, I'm from Augusta, Georgia, so they teach us golf like we learn science.
Yes, indeed. No, that is a great question. I've made many mistakes, so it's not that I can't think of one. I'm just trying to think of the best one. I think that a lot of times when it comes to handling men in the workplace or in your personal life, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was younger, and it's something that a mentor actually pointed out to me, was how I reacted. A lot of times when these events happen, your first is anger, your face changes, and you want to just like punch out or reach out, essentially. And so learning how to stay calm, keep my face neutral, which is not easy. That's one of the hardest things for me to do, and just staying calm and reacting in not what they would think of as a typical female way, is just, calmly, okay, now let's move forward.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Well, we've got so many questions that are coming through the chat. So thank you, everyone. And this question, I like this one from Sarah Beth. And Sarah Beth says, what advice for the situation for women who have been promoted feel that they have a limited amount of capital, such they have to save it for their own fights rather than fighting to uplift other women? And I think she's using capital in more of a metaphorical stage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that is a great question, especially if you're fairly new to your role. You feel like there's only so much help or push that you have. And so I honestly don't have a great answer for that, because it is a big issue, because a lot of women feel like they'll be viewed as only helping women. I think I saw that in the chat pop up, that you're only helping other women and not helping just everyone in general. So I would say use your so-called capital just wisely. I don't want to say don't help. If someone else has a really good answer for this, I would greatly appreciate it, because it's so hard, because you don't want to be viewed as just helping other women. So I'd say maybe use your time equally, as well as keep your capital for yourself on things that you are just extremely, extremely passionate about.
That's interesting. Well, here's an interesting question that you might have an answer to. And Marianne sent this question in, and she said, how do you help build a culture in a male-dominated setting when a qualified female takes a leadership role to add diversity to the group?
Yeah, and this is one of those hard things. So like on the stats of, the board positions, and I think that we've come a long way in the past, say 20 years, a lot of the women that were added were unfortunately because a couple of states passed laws that you had to have a female on the board. Now, a few of those laws have actually been brought back. So we're going to see how that affects it over the next couple of years. But in those positions where you feel like either they had to bring a woman on board or, you're kind of the token woman, I think quite frankly, and it's hard, just kind of earning their respect. And that's not the easiest thing to do. And I don't have great ways to do that, but I think it just continuing to be you. I mean, there's a reason you did make it to where you are. Even if you feel like you were kind of the token woman, you know what you're doing. And if you can get them to understand that or really see that, then they will start respecting you and your ideas.
Well, thank you. Well, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So Dana, I've turned your mic on. Dana, can you ask us a live question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
You sound fabulous.
Okay, great. I come from, like Lauren, I come from the architectural engineering and construction side of things. I spent 30 years in that industry, which is entirely male dominated. And one of the things I learned in order to communicate with the men is I had to present my arguments in a presentation. I had to present them with the facts and everything right there in a presentation for them to take me seriously, rather than going and complaining to them about the number of hours that I'm working, or anything like that, and the way that they treat me. I had to basically present it as a business issue that needed to be solved.
Well, that's wonderful. And so now I think we're going to take another question from Ona. Ona, can you say hello and unmute your microphone? Let's see. I might have.
Hi.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So I am a physician by profession, which is a male-dominated environment. But I've now found myself in the fashion space where I have my own eyewear company. My question is, how do we move from PowerPoint presentations like today's amazing presentation and many other presentations into really practical pairing to mentor people? Because I find myself like a mid-level career where I'm mentoring college students at Emory and Spelman, but it's so difficult to find a mentor for myself. Like, I'm like, how do I start? Where do I go?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And I also want to point out kind of what you're saying is in terms of being a mentor as well, it's time consuming. And so it's hard to find someone, especially maybe, at our level, someone that might be a little bit higher than us that could kind of help us and mentor us, because quite frankly, there's so few of them and they don't quite have the time for all of us. I would say that one of the easiest ways to find another female that, I think could help you out is, sadly, the only way that I have found is just networking. I think that if you look outside your organization and just find other women that have business experience that could either help you out. What we have in Dallas, there's a group that actually gets together quarterly. That the main point is, how can we help each other out? Who are you? What do you do? How can I help you? And how can I be a presence for you? So I think finding other networks, groups, is a good start. But yeah, no, I agree. It's such a hard thing to find at times.
So I think we have time for maybe one more question. And I'm trying to go through some of the questions that we've gotten in the chat. And I think my first question would be to everyone out there. Does everyone have any good ideas for networking? I feel like things have changed in the past 2 or 3 years. I know I used to go to kind of some monthly or, kind of maybe once a quarter, hit up some networking events. So we're always at kind of a local pub and everyone would have a glass of wine and an appetizer and go home. So I'm wondering if anybody out there has any great ideas for networking. Yeah, thank you everyone for all those questions in the chat. So I think I think we have time for one more question. And this question comes for mentoring. And this person, and Layla asks, I just picked up a new mentee and she is right out of college. And she is also going into engineering. What is the first piece of advice that you would give to her?
It gets better.
Exactly.
No, I think that understanding that, yes, you may be surrounded by men all the time. Some of them want to help you out. That just because you're not surrounded by women doesn't mean that you can't get help or find a mentor. There are so many amazing men out there, that really do want to help and help you build your network. So I think just be patient and it will get better.
That's wonderful. Well, Lauren, I think that's going to be our final question for the day. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for all of your great questions and for, all the great chat that's going on. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And yes, thank you everyone for all those wonderful ideas that have come into our chat. So thank you to our speaker today. And thank you also to all our viewers as well. This is a great meeting to start off 2022. So without all of you, these events would not be possible. So let's continue to support women's leadership and learn from one another. So be safe, be kind to yourselves, and be well. So until next month, this is Ginger Whatley signing off. Have a great day, everyone.